This is episode 33 of the Remix Your World podcast with Peter Napoli. Welcome to Remix Your World. I'm Allison Kalagna, global DJ and music producer turned life remixer and personal growth coach. In each episode, we bring you real talk, inspiring stories, and heartfelt conversations of personal transformation to help you uplift and amplify your life. This is the Remix Your World podcast. You may have heard Peter Napoli at one of his traveling BRÜT parties in New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Chicago, where his pulsating beat reigns over packed dance floors and throngs of young men in gear. While this nightlife attraction has been a mainstay for years, Peter's love of music actually began far earlier, growing up in a family of musicians in the boroughs of New York City. Rhythm was a constant in the Napoli household. Peter's dad is a well-known drummer, and there was always a groove happening at home. The early exposure to the relationship between kick drumming and ass shaking propelled Peter to find a career in music beginning in Mexico City in 2009. Back home in New York City, the young firebrand honed his skills at Santos Party House, which escalated him to opportunities in Europe, North and South America. As his sound evolved, Peter found inspiration in deep house and techno, but also the classic bass lines of Frankie Knuckles and David Cole. This diversity is on display at his legendary Burning Man sets and now at Voyage. In its latest iteration, Napoli's sound is an evolution from the stagnant circuit scene of decades past to a future built on an array of percussion and an inclusive cast of talent and performers. Peter's latest party brand, Voyage, is a newcomer to the scene. Its rhythm is the journey, a new venture for aficionados of house and techno and the electronic music community.
Yo, check this out.
What's up, world? This is episode 33 of the Remix Your World podcast with me, Allison Kalagna, and today I am talking to Peter Napoli. You may have heard him from one of his BRÜT parties, or you've heard him DJ. I've played several of his events, and he's actually coming to Dallas to play Blake and I's event release at the end of this month. So we just sat down and had a great conversation. You know, it's funny, it's like I have these relationships with these DJs, but sometimes we don't actually really get to have conversations. We like work together, but we never get to really truly connect because it's crazy in the club and so much is going on in that moment. So it was really cool for us to just kind of sit down and have a Skype face-to-face chat and get to know him a little deeper. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Peter Napoli. I don't feel like I've ever actually gotten to know like your story and how you started or any of that. So we can just start there. I would love to know. You know, where was the little music man from?
So, from the start, born in Queens, grew up on Long Island, from a family of musicians. So music was inherently in my blood, and I was like the newer generation that went in like the digital, realm of DJing and producing music on computers, rather than instruments. My dad is a superb drummer, so I get a lot of like my talent from him. And I started to play when I was living in Mexico City. Yeah, I was living in Mexico City for about a year and a half. I was in Mexico for 3 years, and I was in Guadalajara for a year and a half, and then Mexico City for a year and a half teaching English. And then I was friends with these promoters, Luis Barba, who you might know.
Yeah, of course.
Who does Karma Beat.
Yeah.
He asked me to host one of his parties at this little bar called Cafeína in La Condesa in Mexico City. And Isaac Escalante was like the resident DJ, and I'd always wanted to play. And I kind of I'd been messing around with it in my apartment for a while, and then he gave me the opportunity to play. So I started opening for Isaac every month or every week. I forgot how often it was. And so then returned back to New York, returned to school, went to FIT, finished my bachelor's, and continued to play. And my first gigs in New York were at David Barton Gym, and I had a residency at Industry. So I did the whole bar thing, the whole pop music. Never really resonated with me, but I did it because it's sort of what what's expected, and kind of like in the gay community, it's what sells the most. But inherently, house music was my thing, and my introduction to the nightlife and club scene was in Mexico too. At the time when like Peter Hoffer was at his height, and Offer Neeson, with his album with Maya, which was like, for me, it was mind blowing at that time. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so since then, which was about 10 years ago now, I've been doing my own thing and started my own parties, and have been playing around the country, and very grateful to be where I am.
That's so awesome. So when was your first like club experience then? When did you were like, shit, house music is it? Was it in Mexico?
It was in Mexico. I had listened to the dance, some of the faster dance music that was on Z100 in New York that I enjoyed, but not until Guadalajara at this nightclub called Angels.
Yep, I played there. Jose Spinning,
Yeah, Jose Spinning, Monica's was there, Circus was another one, and I think I heard you at Living.
Yes, Living was
in Mexico City.
Yeah.
Right?
I used to play there often. Yeah, a couple times a year.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
I remember specifically...
the old one, the old Living. The one that was in that mansion.
The cathedral.
Yeah.
Which was mind-blowing.
So amazing. That's when I met Isak.
Yeah.
That's how I met him. Like, wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was at that time. This was like between 2007, 2008, when I was in Mexico City.
That's so cool. What made you do that then? Like, what was that? You were in New York, and you were just like, let me just tell us that.
My brother Chris was an ESL teacher in Miami, and he had gone to school there, studied psychology, and on the side he was an ESL teacher. And I was between schools. I had gotten my associate's degree in liberal arts, and was trying to figure out what to major in. That was always like a big struggle for me, what to major in. So between school and transferring, I went with my brother because he was moving to Mexico to teach, and I figured, hey, why don't I go with you? And I was there for 3 years, and I became a teacher myself. Yeah.
That's so cool. So were you always drawn to Spanish? Like, out of all the languages, or was it mainly like, my brother's going, I'm going?
It was more about, I mean, if he had said Guam, I might have been a little bit more hesitant, but Mexico, I love to travel, and I was also in the closet, so it had a lot to do with like coming out and like escaping New York and being myself, and like starting a new life and being just being myself. So that had a lot to do with why I left.
Wow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when you came out before you left or after you left?
I was there for 2 weeks in Guadalajara, telling myself that I was going to sleep with as many girls as I could because I'm not gay. And then 2 weeks in, I'm at the gay bar fucking doing my thing. And that was it.
That's was just so amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So what was it like then when you came out? Did you tell your brother right away, or?
So
the story gets deep. I love it. So yes, that's what I love about this.
Both of my older brothers are also gay.
Okay.
Yeah, and my oldest brother Matt, who's in theater, an actor, lives in New York City as well. Him I came out to after being in Mexico for 6 months, and he's like, every 6 months when you're living abroad in Mexico, you need to renew your visa. So you have to return, renew it, then you can go back.
Got it.
So on my first visit back, I came out to my oldest brother. First person I ever came out to that like I knew, family or friends. My older brother Chris, Matthew. My brother Chris, who's the middle brother, came out to Matthew a month before. And I was mind blown. I had no clue that Chris was also gay. And we missed each other. Like me and Chris moved to Mexico together, and then he returned to Miami because he had a boyfriend, but he didn't tell me why he was returning. So it was just this crazy, like, mixed or missed like signals or whatever. And yeah, so my brothers were the first ones that I came out to.
Wow.
And then eventually my parents and my friends in New York, and haven't looked back.
Was it hard? Was anyone not happy that you were? Did you have any of that struggle?
My ex-girlfriend, whose virginity I took at 22 years old, was really upset because she, we had a nice relationship, but I broke up with her and said, hey, I'm moving to Mexico. Yeah. So she had seen on Facebook that I was like holding hands with some dude, and she outed me to my friends before I could even come out to them.
Wow.
Which was pretty messed up. And but she was like the only one that was upset, which I kind of get, like it's like a weird situation,
Yeah.
Other than that, no, I was welcomed with open arms from everybody.
And your parents were like, wow, we another one.
Yes, super liberal parents, very open-minded. My dad didn't believe us. He thought we were joking because me and Chris came out to my dad together. We were in the backyard, he's smoking a pipe, and like we like come out to my dad, and he's like, you're joking. I was like, no, Dad, we both have boyfriends.
Wow.
So all three, yeah.
That's so bizarre and awesome at the same time. Are any of them then? Do your parents like? Well, what about grandchildren? What about or any of that then? Do you have a sister, or it's just the three of you boys?
It's just three of us, and my mom, who kind of I guess probably cared most about that, has kind of made like my cousin's children their niece and nephew, and like I have a big family, so there's no. There's not like an issue there. However, I might have kids one day. I'm still open to it with the right partner.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, my dad was like, what do you mean you don't want to have kids? Because I just don't want to have kids. My brother doesn't either. And he's like, I don't have grandchildren. So he's kind of done the same thing with our cousins. Like, so right.
World is overpopulated anyway, right?
Yes.
So.
It's like it's just been one of those things I've never really thought. I always feel like I'm a mama bear in a sense. I have enough children in this world. Like I don't want to actually bring a child.
Yeah, totally. In the gay community, especially.
Yeah.
And like my best friends, who all have kids that I grew up with, like they have 1-2-year-olds and whatever. And I also want nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
So. My friends' children serve as that, that fix that like I want, because I do love kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So then you came back to New York, and then what? So you left Mexico, you came back, and started playing. How did the whole BRÜT thing even happen?
So BRÜT came out of being introduced to Dan Darlington through our mutual friend Wally Aushburn.
Okay.
If we pronounce his last name. Our friend Wally. So Dan wanted to start a party himself, and then he was kind of, I guess, brainstorming with Wally, and Wally had always been a fan of my music. He's like, you need to bring in Peter Napoli, have him play for you. So when Dan had called me and explained his concept and what he wanted to do, and the first party we did was called Mission, which was more of it was a tea dance at Santos Party House that took place on Sundays. And it was like very inclusive and very kind of like club kid, like very New York. We wanted a mixed audience, and we kind of always pushed being outside of the circuit scene and playing house music and tech, and because that's what me and Dan love. So not being hired, like, because most of the gay community plays the circuit sound, and that doesn't work for me and Dan. He wanted to start his own thing, and I was at that point where I needed a platform. So we started Mission, and then Mission led to BRÜT, which was a going away party for Dan, who was moving back to Chicago. And he's like, let's do a Dirty Leather party. And it ended up taking off and surpassing Mission. And there was a void to be filled in New York City. The boys wanted it. They wanted like that environment, and the only place they could go to was the Eagle or the Black Party.
Yeah.
And so because there was this void to be filled, BRÜT took off in New York.
Yeah, that is so
Also
awesome.
at Santos Party House.
Yeah, Santos, that's the one. I don't think I played there, but I went there. You were playing, right? That's the one that I can't remember if I played at that one or not, but I remember being in that room and loving that room. I just can't remember if I was actually
Yeah,
DJing.
yeah, it was a great space, 2 floors. It had that very underground New York feel to it, and it was the perfect atmosphere for BRÜT because it just served that that raunchy, raw New York that we wanted.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so awesome. And look at now. I mean, like I love the whole BRÜT brand. I love what you guys are doing. So when did you
Yeah.
then decide, okay, well, we're going to take this on the road? What was the first city that you were like, we're going to take this somewhere?
San Francisco, I want to say, was our first one because we had one of our friends, Brian Kent, owned a nightclub in San Francisco called Beatbox. And it was either Chicago or San Francisco, but I want to say San Francisco was the first. So just through our network of friends, we just picked which cities we thought would be successful and who kind of have a leather scene, fetish scene. And yeah, so we started in San Francisco and now we're in 6 cities.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What do you think has been the most challenging part in terms of success as a DJ and success as an event producer? What's been the hardest part, you think?
Probably where my heart lies is the music and DJing and producing music and producing these events that I love, and BRÜT's my baby. And I started a new party called Voyage. But producing and playing are 2 full-time jobs.
Yeah.
And like being an artist is really what I'm best at and where my heart lies mostly. So the challenge of balancing the work between both of those has been a challenge.
Yeah, I bet too, because it's like it is. I'm relatively new to that side of it, doing these parties with Blake, and it is a completely different thing, in terms of your mindset around it, and I'm so used to being an artist as well as that too. And you think of it in a completely different way of how you're preparing your shows and preparing your sets. It's a totally different game.
Absolutely. And like, it gets stressful when, you're producing the event and like you get there and you're setting up and you're, all this anticipation and it's exciting and I love it. But you're wearing both hats because I play every party that I produce. Yeah. So like, if there's like issues at the door or like, hosts or the bar or whatever it may be, those are things you need to deal with before you get to play. And it can affect your set, whatever. But like, it's something that I've learned to manage, and I'm just kind of doing it.
Yeah, because you've had no choice. You've had to just learn to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you mentioned
Voyage. And bringing on help, obviously.
Yeah. If you gotta have a team. Oh my God,
right.
Like I couldn't do this by myself. Like no way.
Right. You need a team.
Yeah, it's
and Dan and I have mostly done all of it ourselves, for the most part. So recently, we've brought in some key players to help us out, and especially on the major events. Yeah. Which is good. Yeah.
Yeah. So you'd mentioned Voyage, and I want to kind of talk about that. And I'm curious if that stemmed from your whole Burning Man experience and then wanting to create something that feels more like you as an artist. So I'd love to hear how Voyage was born.
Yeah, so Voyage is something that I've been kind of sitting on for a while. With BRÜT, I get to play the music I want to play, but there's also a level of pleasing the crowd and being that I'm a fan of multiple house music genres, from deep house to tech house to techno to disco. My style has always been merging these genres that I really love, from like the Latin drums to, something soulful. And I wanted a platform that I didn't have any sort of like restrictions or feel that I need to like go in a certain direction or, you know, please the audience. Like, I always believe since we started BRÜT, admission, which was to play what we wanted to play and not care what anybody thought.
Yeah.
So that has definitely been the road I've taken. However, you know, brands go in a certain direction and you kind of follow what's working.
Right.
So what Voyage is my platform to completely explore what I can do as an artist and not feel constricted, like I said. So being within the gay community, having my straight friends and the straight techno world, my Burning Man community, which has a certain vibe and sound, and like a lot of people, you know, don't feel comfortable at BRÜT, right? Because it has a certain tone environment. But I want everybody that I, you know, spend my time with, all the people that enjoy my music, one place. So that's what Voyage is a place to bring everyone together. And I think more so the community needs it, especially in New York, because there's a lot of separation. Yeah. And places that where like girls might not be welcomed, or, you know, straights might not be comfortable in certain, you know, gay parties. And like New York, to my knowledge, there were no lines. And like the best parties were the mixed parties that the people were there just for the music. And it didn't matter what color skin you had, what your sexual orientation was. It was about the music, it was about the community, and it was about dancing together and releasing, because we live stressful lives. So on the dance floor, we need to feel comfortable and safe. Yeah. And that's what Voyage is.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to hear you say that, because it's like I'm listening to myself and a little bit of like, oh God, that's how I feel about Release. And that's why that started, that whole thing of like creating it in a venue that isn't a gay venue, so that it has that mixed environment. And yeah, and when I saw that you were doing that with Voyage, it was just like, oh my God, he's, you know, that's why Blake and I were both like, yeah, let's have Peter come out. I mean, like, I love to hear other gay DJs talk about all of the music that we love, because there's so much music out there that is not being shown in the circuit world. And it's part of our place as DJs to share and yet create these new experiences to give them opportunities to listen to other music,
other sounds. Yeah, totally. And not your remix to a pop song. Right.
Yeah. Who are some of your biggest inspirations as a DJ and as a producer? Because they're, you know, they could be two different tracks.
Some of my biggest, I mean, Mark Knight, who we have for World Pride, has always been somebody I've followed and been drawn to. Because my style, like, I'm a big proponent on history and where music comes from, and appreciating what's in the past. So like he's an artist that I've always looked up to. Danny Tenaglia is somebody that I've seen, you know, has like this massive career, you know, from disco to techno. And as a producer, I always try and push myself to sound different and to like appreciate the all the genres that I love, like merge those things together. Yeah. So like, I mean, from Sylvester as like a disco artist, Donna Summer, to Louis Vega, you know, bringing in, you know, that Latin feel. He's a huge inspiration for me. Yeah, I mean, the list goes on for sure.
Yeah. When you go into the studio, do you usually set an intention around what you're trying to create, or do you allow it to just kind of show up?
The way my tracks work is, as I'm working on a certain track, you know, and you're coming up with different melodies and rhythms, I'll work on something and then, you know, try and improve it, and I'll have areas of the track that won't really fit for that song. Like I'll create it and be like, oh, this sounds pretty good, but it might not be the best fit, and I'll save that And then that will be like the inspiration to my next track. And so I'll pull that, you know, layer of the song, bounce it, and then throw it into another set of, you know, kick drums and bass lines. And so like each track kind of is an inspiration from the past.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
All right, talk to us a little bit about Burning Man, because I'm so jealous because I've never actually gone. And all of so many of my burner friends are like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And I just have never made it happen. You know, it's never. So, for someone who's listening that has never even experienced it, what would you say to them? When was your first?
2013, and I was invited I was at a wedding in Cartagena, Colombia, and it was one of my really good friends, Nikki, who was living in Mexico City at the same time I was. She invited me to her wedding, and at the wedding, I met this guy, John Legee, and John Legee runs one of the best Burning Man camps there is, called Playa School, which has now kind of shifted into a new camp called Daydream that he's doing on his own right now. But so he invited me in 2013, and like this was like a month before the burn, and he, you know, took care of some of my accommodations, and he's like, "Come play," because I was playing this after party at the wedding, like the night after the wedding, and he heard me, and he's like, "Dude, I love your music. I'd like to invite you to my camp." So he invited me, and I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. I'd heard of Burning Man, but I had no idea the scope of this. To me, how I identify it is like a art and music festival.
Yeah.
But it's so much more. It's hard to put into words unless you've been there. There's so much to it. It's a collective. It's a community. It's, you know, an energy developer. It's a place to like find yourself. And music is, you know, a big part of this entire week. And you can, you know, as an artist, it's a huge challenge because the people that go there come with their A game. And to stand out and to like really, you know, make an impression, you have to dig deep into like, what kind of artist am I? And like, what do I see myself playing in the middle of the desert in Nevada, you know, miles from civilization? and through the energy of the people and the, you know, the organization and the camps that you're a part of and the art cars, you know, so the last burn I played on this 40-foot art car that was shaped like a jaguar that I played with this beautiful Adamson sound system on the night of the burn I started at 3 a.m. and it was magical. Like it was just like it's surreal when you're there. It's like you're just kind of in shock that this exists. It's just so cool. It's so cool. And, you know, it's not for everybody, but I highly recommend it for creatives and for people that are looking for a new kind of challenge in life.
What was the biggest challenge for you to be there? Like your first time?
Probably I stayed in a shipping container.
Okay.
So some people tent, some people are in RVs. Me and John stayed in a shipping container that had an AC. So it's kind of like, I think the challenge was just kind of being out in the elements in this new atmosphere. And like, I adjusted pretty quickly, but it was intimidating being there because it was just kind of like Mad Max in a good way. Not like I was in danger, but it was intimidating because these people, like, you know, a ton of professionals and, you know, these people that work really hard and party really hard or like are looking for, you know, inspiration for their next project, or they want to develop, you know, an art piece that like, you know, a phonograph that you could stand on that's 40 feet tall. You know, it's just like this imagination, people bring imagination to life there. And I couldn't think of a place that does that any other place in the world.
Wow. I know
Yeah.
it's just incredible, you know, and you hear so many stories of it's just being so life changing for so many people, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
It
how
does. It's a humbling experience.
how did it change your everyday life then when you got back to the city? How did you integrate?
It helped with appreciating and to like remain grateful every day,
Mm,
you know, because like the week flies by and I'm there for the entire week and you want to be there for the whole week because like time doesn't really exist when you're there. So, you know, and being privileged to be there, you know, being so grateful to be there, I carried that into my day to day in respect to like, um, you know, saying hi to people on the street or like, you know, the guy at the grocery store, because it's such a friendly environment. And I try and bring that friendly, you know, neighborhood environment to my neighborhood in Brooklyn, you know, which it already is kind of, but it's also not. So I like remembering that we're all connected, we're all brothers and sisters of each other. And that's one of the big lessons that I learned being there is like, no, we are all equal and we have to remember that.
would you consider yourself to be spiritual, or is there any principles that you like follow or believe? What's your take on that?
Um, I believe I'm a spiritual person. My what I who I talk to would be the universe, manifesting what I want and like above and things like that. I mean, God is like different, just like different for everybody. For me, I'm comfortable with like the universe and the just the power of nature.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
moving here to Colorado just like completely changed everything, being so much. I didn't realize how much I needed nature, I guess, until I lived in
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
And then it was like, wow, you know, it really, it is universe. I use the word universe too. Sometimes I use source or force, but it's all the same. It all
Hmm.
feels like the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, nature is, it's one thing that I try and incorporate in my day to day, or at least, you know, multiple times a year. Um, but you quickly, when you're living in a big city, you quickly forget about it and
Yeah.
the importance of fresh air and not looking at a screen
Yeah.
because we spend so much time on technology that like that's one of the things about Burning Man too is you're disconnected. There's you don't bring your phone out. You're not texting anybody. There's no signal. So that's one of the things I love about that week is that it's a complete disconnection from you know, the default world.
Yeah, I was curious when you said you had to play at 3. The first thought I thought was, how did you know what time it was? Because I can't imagine you're walking around with your phone, you know, which has become your
Yeah,
thing, you know, and your watch.
yeah. Watch on your wrist. Yeah,
It's like, wow,
right.
old school pocket watch moments.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
What were your USBs like at when you were done? I can't even, God,
Pretty dusty. Yeah, pretty
I
dusty.
imagine. Yeah. So tell us about Pride. Talk to us about Pride.
So excited about Pride.
I was gonna I was totally going to avoid the city like the plague. And then when you called and you're like Mark Knight, I was like, and yes.
Yeah, yeah. It's it's really exciting because we are, you know, as you know, like BRÜT has been an alternative um dance, you know, community. And for Pride, we've been doing Pride parties for BRÜT for the past few years. Being that, excuse me, being that it's going to be such a big weekend, we wanted to do more. So we decided to do a Friday party called Diesel, which is a brand out of Spain. And Dan and I played the Diesel party back in December in Madrid, and it was fantastic. We had such a great time, and we love that the Diesel family. And since we were, you know, looking to do a Friday party, we thought let's involve the Diesel guys. So we were doing a Friday event, a Saturday event, and Hustler Ball is our Thursday party, which is, you know, the first opening party of Solidarity Weekend.
Yeah.
And Solidarity is the experience where we're providing outside of like the norm when it comes to what a pride looks like in most major cities around the world.
Right.
And but we're a collective of house techno and tech house parties.
Yeah.
And we're calling ourselves the other side of, we're more on the alternative side, and we just added an after hours, which is at PlayStation Theater directly after Diesel and before BRÜT.
Okay, got it.
So we have a lot happening, and it's really exciting. We just brought in Twisted D and Javier Medina.
Nice.
And Ralphie Rosario is with you and Nick at Diesel at Webster Hall, and Webster Hall just is opening in like a week or two, so we're super excited to be at Webster Hall.
Yeah.
And Ultra Nate is with us along with Manny Ward and Amanda Louise for BRÜT. So yeah, there's a new level to the Pride community that we're trying to bring forth.
Yeah.
You and Susan just played BRÜT in New York, in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know I didn't know that $3 bill was formerly Sutherland. I didn't know any of that. And then I walk in and there's Guy, and I'm like, oh wait, now I put it all together. But I loved that room.
It's a great room.
Yeah, I had a great time. And you were here. How bizarre is that? You were in Denver that
right.
night.
I was in Denver playing a Burning Man party.
Did you go outside or anything when you were here? Did you get to do anything? I don't know what the weather was then. Who knows if it was snowing.
It was mostly nice. Especially the morning of Sunday morning, which was right after the party. When the sun came up, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And then the following day, it rained and snowed and sleeted right before my flight. So you guys have some crazy weather out there. Yes. I don't know what's going on in Denver.
We do. It's bipolar Boulder. It's pretty crazy. we can get all 4 seasons in one day.
Yeah, it's insane.
I know.
It's so bizarre.
You just have to learn how to just deal with it, and like kind of constantly, it's all about layers and just be prepared. It's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
But even when it snows here, that's what I love about it is like it's never really gray. Very rarely will we get a stretch of gray. Like it's pretty sunny. I love it. We get over 320 degree days of summer a year. It's amazing.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I'm definitely jealous of that. New York winters are rough.
Yeah, I couldn't handle that. Well, I'm excited that you're coming to Dallas.
So excited about Release.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. And you get to just the cool thing about Release is like you get to just do what you want to do. It's not a circuit party. There will be circuit boys there, yes, but it is not a circuit party.
Right. Exactly.
It's very mixed. You'll see we get a lot of girls, and there's boys, there's bears. It's like everything, So it's really kind of this really cool mix of.
Perfect.
The space is really cool too. So you just get to do you and be yourself.
So I'm so pumped about it. I really am, and I appreciate you bringing me on for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm excited to have you.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So where can everybody find you and follow you and all of that good stuff?
So my sets are on SoundCloud under Peter Napoli. My handles for Instagram and my Facebook fan page is DJ Peter Napoli, and I have some sets going on YouTube right now, so you can find there, which I'm going to be improving on. And yeah, that's about it. But I have a website about to launch in about a week or two. So djpeternapoli.com is a great place to follow me. Awesome.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. One last question before we break. How would you define music?
Self-expression, can collectively turn into a genre. But music is love. Music is love and self-expression.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Amen. I believe it too. All right. Awesome. Thanks for taking some time and talking to me today. I love you so much. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Okay. All right. Take care.
So that's it for this episode. I hope you found something inspiring. Maybe Peter inspired you to want to take a trip to Burning Man. I know I want to go to Burning Man. I mean, shit. It's one of those things where I have said it and I just haven't done it. And I know I'm the only person that can make it happen. So Maybe this is me telling the world to hold me accountable to take my ass to Burning Man. I'm okay with that. If you are going to be in Dallas for Pride and you want to come and check Peter out, come to Release. It's going to be awesome. And if you're going to be in New York City for Pride, well, you know where I will be Friday night playing with the one, the only Mark Knight, along with Ralphie Rosario and Nick Bertozzi. So I'm really excited about a lot of things that are going on in terms of Remix Your World and the music. As always, if you want to get in touch with me, hit me up on Instagram. You could shoot me a DM, or I have a new email for the podcast. It's simple. It's just hi@remixyourworld.com. Hit me up that way and we can get to know each other a little bit better. If you have any people that you would love for me to have on the show, shoot me a DM or an email and I would love to hear from you. Take care, have an amazing week, and go out and create something magical. Take care. Bye.